Wikipedia, of course, is one of the most popular sites online, but it's blacked out today. For 24 hours, Wikipedia and others are going dark, and it's all in protest of this anti-piracy legislation that now is before Congress. They say the legislation would essentially censor the open internet. Now, I should mention that Time Warner, CNN's parent company, supports the legislation. Alexis Ohanian is the co-founder of Reddit, one of the sites that's going to has shut down now already, right? Earlier this morning, I was taking a look. It was there. When did it shut down? 14 minutes ago.
Yes.
I can help you. We have the actual clocks on all the cameras. 14 minutes ago, and we're back with our panel, of course. Explain to everybody what Reddit does. You're an aggregator of info content.
Yes, about 35 million people visit every month to submit interesting links to sites all over the web that have interesting content, and then discuss it and vote on all of it. It's sort of a democratic front page of the web.
So what's the position about SOPA? Because you're against it.
Yes, actually both SOPA and PIPPA are threats not just to the U.S. economy and not just to all the jobs that this tech sector creates, but if they had existed, Steve Huffman and I never could have even started Reddit. And it's just frustrating to see legislation that was so clearly written by lobbyists and not technologists potentially become law.
There are some people who've said by going black, what you're doing is a gimmick, right? You're trying to bring attention and then come on morning shows to talk about it, when actually Reddit could be part of the conversation and Google could be part of the conversation because it sounds to me like all sides think piracy is a bad thing. There's no one arguing piracy is a good thing.
Agreed. I just wish we had been called to the table when this legislation was written. If you look last year, $94 million was spent lobbying to get this bill, to get these bills made. And it's just so frustrating because we look at Congress and we can't see them do anything that's important. They can't solve the problems of unemployment. They can't solve the problems of the deficit.
Reference the congressional figures we were showing earlier about approval at 11%.
Precisely. And yet, as soon as a lobbyist shows up with $94 million, Democrats and Republicans line up to co-sponsor it. Something is wrong there.
You're right. Have media companies accused you of piracy at Reddit?
No. Because you're
not part of the problem, according to the other side, then.
Well, what's curious about it is the legislation is so poorly and so vaguely written that Reddit could actually be misconstrued as a search engine under these bills.
And that's a concern, right? So you're saying is it's now that they're taking the focus off, it's very hard to look at piracy if they're coming out of foreign countries, right? So what the focus would be potentially on Reddit, which would be responsible for monitoring that content, which could make you liable at the end of the day.
And it would not just be Reddit, it would be any of these U.S.-based sites. In a world where so much content is generated, you're creating a scenario that is nearly untenable for large sites, but totally untenable for the next Facebook, for the next Twitter, the two-person startup in a cafe here in New York.
You mentioned that lobbying number, that $94 million. To be clear, the other side is spending millions of dollars on lobbying, too, which is to say Google, Facebook, and other big companies like that. I think that's important to point out.
I should have pointed out that number comes from the Center for Responsive Politics.
I'm not saying that that's not true, but I'm saying that the other side is spending
but the numbers coming from the tech sector last year was actually $15 million. And I urge you all to Google that. Compared to millions of dollars on both
Final word to Will King.
Well, I would say this is an extremely complicated problem. Most people at home probably don't understand what SOPA is, much less what the acronym stands for, Stop Online Piracy Act. We have a legitimate problem which we all can agree on, and that is content creators like Time Warner, our bosses, create something and then offshore companies pirate it and give it away for free. The solution is the debate. How do you stop this? The debate is, do we make people like Reddit take links off their site? Do we make people like Google take links off their site?
Everybody is against piracy. So at the end of the day, theoretically, you should be able to move forward with some kind of solution. It's nice to have you. Thanks for being with us this morning. We appreciate it. Still to come this morning on